No pressure. I was talking to our last speaker just a few minutes ago, and he claimed that he can do a pretty mean Australian accent, so I'll leave that up to him if he wants to or not. But we do have the Global Director of Technical Learning for JLL, Bryon Price. He's going to bring us home.
Thank you for that. And no, I don't have an Australian accent. I would not torture you with that. I just brought the pillbox in case anyone hadn't seen one before, but that is the magic is inside of here. I'll just leave it up here as a display element. Anybody hear me okay? Yeah, thanks everyone for sticking around. I know this is, he said, saving the best for last, so I don't want that sort of anticipation. It'll be good though, I think. So one of the things when I originally thought about coming here and talking about, what our journey for this, what I'm sharing today, and I really kind of thought, I really like collaboration. I like sharing what we learned, and hopefully you can avoid some of the pitfalls we went into. So I'll let the PowerPoint talk, but there's a lot of things we learned and a lot of things that we just wanted to kind of grow and evolve this new platform because this is very new technology. So next slide, please. Oh, I also wanted, I didn't say anything. Bobby.
Hi, everybody. I'm Bobby Carlton, and I am with FS Studio. And what we do is we develop XR solutions for enterprise use, and as Bryon talked about, this technology, there's a lot of great data on how it works and where it works, but there are absolutely some obstacles that you need to be aware of, things that you need to think about when moving forward with this, because that's going to obviously make your experience much better.
Yeah. I know that one of the questions I get quite often is, what is JLL? What do you do? So we are a large real estate company similar to CBRE, and that we will quite often be asked to do the engineering right under a service contract for large companies, and quite a few of them are here today, including things like Microsoft and Amazon and some of the other ones. We've got a very, very large global footprint, and my job is to take whatever technical training, whatever way I can transfer knowledge between the people that know, right, the experienced individuals, and then, what's this?
Slide advance.
Oh, slide advance. Oh, cool. So is it the green button? I press it and it goes next. Is that right? Sorry. The green button. Okay. Thank you. And so, anything we can do, put in the hands of the technicians that are just starting out. And in fact, with some of this new technology, we can build a virtual world where we can train the next generation, right? And that's kind of my idea. Was what's poking around in my head as I start down this journey was, if I build a training, a place where I can teach the next generation, get them excited, because kids really dig technology and they dig VR. Whereas a lot of the older generation maybe don't, but they can share their knowledge, the older generation's knowledge, to the newer generation. So that was kind of my thought going through my head, is how do we do that, right? So along the journey, because that's kind of what our case study is, to kind of share that, right? What we did and how we moved forward. And there is a video, so there is some cool stuff that we're going to share as what it actually looks like. So we started with scope, goals, and vision. Right, we wanted to create the platform for JLL because we want to be able to share that to the industry. We also want to use a secure connected device, right? And security is a big thing for a lot of our clients, so we certainly didn't want to add any insecurity to, perhaps banks and stuff like that, right? Data centers especially are very, very important that we don't make a security risk for our clients. So we designed the base platform. Right, and we'll talk about that. We have a slide that specifically talks about some of the things we learned there. We distribute the hardware around the globe, right, because this is meant to be a global program. So we distribute the hardware, and it's virtual. So no matter where you are in the world, able to connect to that same network hub and be able to, do everything that's cool about networking inside of VR. To do that, right? So we also wanted to build applications or experiences, right? That was why we had to partner. Obviously, we need partners for this, right? So, and we're still looking for collaboration and partners anywhere in the industry, right?
Right, yeah, and that's one thing we have to think about, right? There's a lot of conversations about the evolution of the hardware. There's a lot of conversation about, how augmented reality and virtual reality, the Quest Pro headset. But we need to really also talk about and focus on the experiences. Like, what does that mean? How do those experiences? How are we delivering them? The headsets are really important. Not going to take that away, but the experience that your employees or people using it for the workforce, that has to really resonate with them. And there's components to think about, such as UX design, such as the interface, and those are the things with Bryon and JLL. Those were things that we had to consider and which were important.
Yeah. But we followed the typical process you would expect, right? You create a scope of work, you collaborate, work together, and I love that experience, by the way, with FS Studio. Very collaborative, very open, honest. You talk to each other. You really need that kind of collaborative environment to build something that works. Right, so share that vision, right? So we needed to be able to share it. And then the vision itself, right? I want to be able to train and certify future, not just the technical staff what we currently have, but the future staff as well. So, hey, let's put it in high schools, let's put it in apprenticeships, let's put it out there before anybody even comes to the hiring table, right? To be able to understand and maybe even get excited about the engineering, as excited as somebody that's still doing it after 35 years, right? Maybe we can get them excited about it too. So, base problem, we need qualified technical, it's always a funny question, and I know the answer, but anybody have problems finding qualified technical resources inside your industry? Yeah, by show of hands, I'm sure everyone's had that problem, right? I mean, it's tough, right? The pool of available technicians is really low, and especially thinking about where we're looking for the technical talent is around data centers and critical spaces where one mistake is millions of dollars, or it's a hospital or it's some other critical type work where airports and all sort of computer equipment, where if that goes down, right, that is a huge impact to the client, which of course equates to a problem, right? So we need to be able to find a pool of technicians that won't cause that problem, right? So we have our service agreements that drive what we do, so we absolutely have to be able to execute that service agreement without making mistakes. So we need a qualified pool, but we can't find a pool of technicians. It's very, very difficult to find technicians anymore. So the problem is getting worse and worse. Every year we go, right? Less pool of individuals who are already trained. So how do you fix that? Well, I'm thinking we need to train them, right? If we can train them, then we're prepared. So we started down the road and we needed architecture, right? And so we were looking at the Oculus Quest 2, and this was about a year ago.
Yes, so yep, that was a year ago. And of course, when again, hardware, again, going back to this, it's important. And depending on what the scenario is, depending on what industry you're in, whether you are in manufacturing or whether you are in real estate, that can determine, do you go with a Quest 2 headset? Do you go with an AR device? Do you go with something a little more simple? Do you go a WebXR route? And so those are things to absolutely consider when you work with a studio or work internally before approaching a studio.
Yeah. And we also wanted to be able to keep it secure. So the next slide's all about the security, because essentially we used the hardware, but that's about it, right? We kind of had to develop our own base software, right? We had our own kind of environment that you port into as you log into the device. There's not really a login. You put the headset on, and of course, thinking from an engineering perspective,
Right.
I've worked around a lot of engineers, right, that are working at the facilities, and if you make it complicated at all, right, and they go to put that headset on, they see a login screen, they'll just take it off and walk away.
Right, and our solution for that was literally, if you probably have used the Quest headset, right, and you get into a headset and you see that menu and you see the login screen. We eliminated that component, and so when the engineers or when the workers were put on a headset, they literally were launched right into the experience, eliminating some boundaries and eliminating that friction.
Yeah. So I want to share with, especially to this audience, what our architecture was. So here's kind of a high-level overview, which I'll leave it to you to talk about because, this
So
this is the
obviously,
magic.
there's a lot. When we think about XR technology in Industry 4 and in any type of enterprise, and again, it could be something as simple as even like the food industry. There are a lot of layers you need to consider when adopting XR technology, when bringing that into your ecosystem. Not only are you having to think about how this technology could cause a little bit of disruption in workflow. It can cause a little bit of alienation with those, quote, legacy employees that I think about. You have to also think about all of this, right? Cloud integration, security, encryption. We heard it in the last panel. What does that mean? What does the controllers have? What does that mean in your experience? And so there's a lot of high-level things to worry about, and there's a lot of even the low-hanging fruit components that you have to consider. And again, but what's interesting is each industry, that high level and low are different in every use case scenario. So, but those are things that you, as in your company, as you're pursuing this type of approach for your ecosystem, you need to have that internal conversation, and then when you're ready to approach a studio or approach a vendor to do something like this, you have that structure already, that foundation built up, where now you can start to tackle like the bigger, heavier things.
Yeah, and it was a journey, but this works. It worked for us, especially. I needed a place where the guys could just come in. You don't have to log in, maybe pick a non-detailed avatar, because you could spend 2 hours picking your avatar and then, but we were like, no, simple. You get maybe 3 choices and then your name goes above your head.
But I will say, all the components are here. Depending on the industry, it'll just kind of vary. You're moving different parts around. And so it's like having all the ingredients for pizza. It's just a matter of how you put it together. But Bryon and his team worked really hard on sketching that out, and our job was to come in and help take what he's saying and put that together. And of course, we're going to see that a little bit later.
Yeah, and there's a lot of buzzwords that go along with this. It's scalable. It's a good base to let you grow, right? And lots of different things. So, like you said, you may start out at X, but you can go Y, Z, and continue on even after that. So this was a great base for us for what we wanted to do. And so then we went and did a proof of concept. Well, essentially, I handed out a bunch of these pill boxes, right? And this is everything you need. This connects you, and if I ship this around the world, this is all you need and you're in. And you don't need a special login. We just manage this remotely through that MDM software, and it works. So as a proof of concept, there was a lot of things we took as feedback, right? And so there were, I start off with the negatives, what I consider, maybe not the greatest things in the world. And the first was a lobby. Yeah, it was cool. And our lobby, we actually highlight it in the video we'll show here in a little bit. It's a cool idea, not required for the technical training that I'm focused on. I really want to do this technical training, but the metaverse concept, the whole, collaborative sitting inside of a lobby was gimmicky. It didn't really make much of a difference. So it was neutral. It was fun. It was interesting, and it was good for maybe executives to show off. But really, after about 20 users, it breaks down and/or it's not really functional. So I consider that neutral. The next was not tested, because if you've ever tried to edit a 360 video, like for example, I took it to a conference and our launch for the product at our internal JLL conference, and captured a ton of video of people putting them on, having fun, kind of geeking out, nerding out, and enjoying this new technology and getting all the reactions. People going, wow, this is really cool. We need to do this. And come to find out that if you've ever tried to stitch or work with 360 video, it's a lot of work.
It's not fun.
Yeah.
I've done it.
A lot of work. So I've got all the video captured, but I've got a lot of work to actually make it in a product, make it so it's nice that somebody can go in. So my point is, at some point, I'll build a video library inside of that Meta platform. People can go back through and see the launch experience, see people's reactions to the first time you're seeing this. And it'll be cool, but we weren't even able to test that. It was too much work out of the gate. The physical device, It's the base model, right? Originally, we spec'd it out to have really cool custom graphics, right? And so we purchased some graphics. We got them in, and they weren't very. They were stickers, right? And when you think about it from like a kid, if I give this to one of my kids and say, here's some flames along the side of your Oculus, it's really cool. But think about it from a perspective of a professional environment. It really looked gimmicky with a sticker. Right? So we went with some really nice custom graphics, and they were really cool, but they were expensive. So we thought about doing a whole bunch of headsets that way, and we're like, okay, we're going to do 1,000 or whatever. So that it's totally possible if we go to a manufacturer to build a set of Oculuses with custom graphics. That would work, but we didn't have the forethought to actually get that done beforehand. So we're stuck with that being negative at this point, but we could turn it to a positive. And then distribution. If anybody in the room has ever tried to ship to China, and especially recently, it's very expensive, cumbersome, painful, and I have to say that it's very much not cool.
It's a lot of paperwork. I've done.
It's a lot of paperwork, but it's the cost.
Yes.
Right. So one of the best parts about this, this box and having everything you need right here, is that it's very reasonable price. I can sell it to a company. Say you need 10 of those. Okay, it's only X dollars, right? If I now talk about shipping and you're in China, now it's X plus 3 times 3 or times 4, right? So that breaks it, right? It breaks the model. It's no longer viable. So I would say that's distribution. Yeah, it's tough. So what we found is we had conference events where people from Asia Pacific and EMEA were there, and hand them out. Here, put this, because it does fit quite easily in luggage. So you hand them out during a conference, and you're able to get them, distributed easier.
And no one's going to complain when you give them a VR headset to take home with them. So
not yet. I'm sure someone.
Not yet.
Someone will complain. And then the positive. We learned a lot. So here's the fun part: is this is really cool technology. And one of the first things is like the lecture hall, which is why I put it up at the top. It is a really cool place to bring in OEM vendor, bring in somebody who wants to talk about anything, put them in this lecture hall we built. And it's kind of like having them on stage here, and everybody's kind of out there. You probably get the best seat in the house, because in VR, everybody can have the best seat in the house. And then you'd go through the training, right, which was extremely valuable. You're able to clean it up, make it look professional, record it, and do everything inside of that lecture hall. It's very cool. And then the technical training, right, which is what I'm focused on, right? Extreme value. And I show some of the 3D models, some of the enhanced learnings. I kind of knew, I'm a bit of a gamer myself, and I love the technology for games. But every time I play a game, I'm sitting there, wow, you can even pick up a cup or something. I remember the first time that I experienced VR, and I stared at my hand for a while going, wow. And then I think about training and what we can do with that, and it really does work, right? Those 3D models are incredibly powerful learning, and especially thinking about it from a distracted point of view, right? So every time I see people do it all the time, they're looking at their phones or they're looking at something else instead of doing the training. Which is one of the worst things you can do, because you spend hours and hours trying to figure out how this training works, and then you're watching your phone instead of doing the training, right? So how do you avoid that? Well, put it in VR. They're completely immersed. They can't look at their phone, and that works.
I was going to say, and here's the thing: we realize there's some new technology. There's this idea of asynchronous reality, the idea of recording your reality while you're in virtual reality, so you don't miss what happened. There are times if you're in a VR headset and you take it off and you're like, oh wait, somebody took my notebook. But through this idea of asynchronous reality, which again, this is sort of future thinking. We see the technology existing now, but how will it apply to us in the workforce in the future? We're not sure. But a lot of that could will be leveraged into a positive part of a VR experience. Again, as Bryan's talking about, if we're doing a training and I'm looking at my phone or looking at my watch, looking out the window, how effective is the training? But by immersing them in virtual reality, they're able to focus on the training. They're able to get that mental muscle memory. They're able to have virtual presence, so they're able to learn the content faster, right? We've seen that data learning faster, retaining information better, which is true. Like the data, data doesn't lie, but we are starting to consider, well, what about if we miss something in reality? So asynchronous reality could be something we could absolutely see be part of this, and I think. The other component is the idea of having a virtual reality experience which is personalized to you and custom to you, where you are learning better.
The next is digital twins. I think digital twins are awesome, right? You're able to go around, for example, in this room, if you were to scan this room and then be able to walk around it in virtual. Very cool experience, but from an engineering perspective, you go around and scan the engineering spaces and use that for training. It's extremely powerful for the site level training, for that specific site and that specific location. It's so much cooler to actually train inside of a room that looks like the room you're actually going to be working in, right? And it's really powerful. A lot of partnered experiences. That's one of the things I love about this conference is we're able to see and collaborate together in a way that, it's very rare. Right, to be able to see what other people are doing in the industry and collaborating together. I love partnered experiences. Please do feel to reach out. I'll share what I learned and share what, future products, everything we develop and internally, kind of talk about how we got there, what we developed, and kind of grow this industry together. But training organizations, products, OEM vendors, clients, it's all, really powerful partnered experience. Health and safety needs to be integrated. From our perspective, health and safety is our one of our priority. Everybody goes home safe. So we want to validate that through the experience. You'll see that we've got a PPE experience as part of the video. And then the physical devices, we really didn't have any issues with the Oculus. It's a very nice headset, very reasonably priced, and it works. Now, I've noticed there's a lot of other options here at the conference. It's just we picked this one because it was the cost and availability at the time. It was a good choice for us. And I believe this will launch the video. So
here it is.
Yep. And I'll let you listen to it. My buddy John made the music for this. And I told him I'd give him a plug, but it's pretty cool. So this is the lobby. So we start out here, kind of showing off what does the lobby look like. Some of the things we're doing inside there. So we put it on a big bulletin board that you can see. This is really meant to be where your teleporters and kiosks are. So you can see we partnered with Atos to show off some of the digital twins and some of the training that they have. We've got other trainings that we built specifically for that purpose of testing it, right? Validating what would work and what doesn't work. So you go in the kiosk and teleport to the experiences, and we'll kind of show off. The first one here is around PPE. So we're meant to put on the right PPE before you go and do the work, right? So you can see you've got the person picking up the PPE, donning it. It does it very quickly, but if you pick it up and look at it, you can kind of study it. It's got all the details that you'd want. And I'll just be quiet for this part because it's kind of a cool moment. So that was a diesel generator starting. If you've ever heard a diesel generator start, that's a very unique sound. So that's one of the things that I think is cool with virtual. Unique sights, unique sounds. We can do 3D exploded views. See how we pulled this alternator apart? We can see the moving components. You can see the 4-stroke engine right here, seeing all the piston moving up and down. Here's a fuel system for a generator with all the components labeled. Right? And then here we've got an animation of a chiller plant showing the flow of liquid inside of the pipes. Here's a UPS system. This is just kind of quick view of some of the 3D elements that we utilize inside there for training. These are really powerful 3D models from a training perspective for what we do. Right? And here's the lecture hall I was mentioning before. Here's from a person out in the audience, and now from the lecturer. Right? You're standing at the podium. Right, you're able to teach and instruct here. You've got 3D models. So now we're going to highlight, there's a 3D model on the stage. You press the cycle button, you cycle a different 3D model, and you can just cycle through. You can also hand out 3D models to people, and they can see it in their hand, right, and experience it. And this was just to highlight so that you can even see there's some VR goggles there you put on. Those are Matterport scans that you can walk around in your different viewpoints. And this is kind of our launch pad here. But, okay, cool. So really that's representing what we consider an alpha phase of development, right? We're still developing the platform, but we wanted a proof of concept. So all the things we shared before about our proof of concept, what works, what was challenging and what absolutely works, was experienced at the conference. We were able to put people in those headsets. They were able to see all of those different things and give us feedback, right? And so we're happy to share that.
Yeah, and again, and for that type of experience, right, you need to think about the user experience. How are people going to access that information? What is the easiest way for them to access the information? And then again, and of course, going back to, imagine hiring somebody before even putting them on the floor, they know exactly what they're getting into. They know exactly what the machinery is doing. They know exactly what pipe is doing what wire is doing, transferring this type of data. And that will allow us, again, more efficiency for onboarding like employees or retraining or, training on the fly or something like that.
Yeah. It gives us a solid base too. That was the key that I want. A solid base we can build from here, right? All the experiences that we've already got developed, but move beyond all the experiences that we want to build for the next generation. So, a couple of things. These are 5 things that we really think that is powerful that we can utilize this, our own Meta platform for. 1, train and certify our on-account staff and the future on-account staff, right? We'll be able to do ongoing incident response and readiness training, right? Being able to show what an incident looks like inside of this platform so that we can improve the response times and improve, people responding to an incident may have never seen anything like it. So we can recreate that inside of virtual and then drive it from there. Drive an appropriate response, which is what we want to remove the risk of that operation from the client activities. We want to be able to remote view our digital twins of our sites, right? So if I give this to an executive anywhere and they want to review, different sites, different locations, we can empower them to do that through that headset. And then sharing best practice approach, right? So what is the best way to do it? And we get this all over the place, right? And we've got a lot of good talent, a lot of good information that we receive as we move forward, and we want to be able to share that in a meaningful way. And I think the 3D approach and being able to share it that way is way better than a PowerPoint, right? Or even e-learning, which I think e-learning is excellent, but man, VR is so cool for being able to share information and share best practices. And I think it's just one last slide. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. If you have questions, let us know.
And there was a question on the app. Did you have the app handy?
Oh.
There was a question on the app. It was revolving around how do you prepare. I don't want to get it wrong.
Let's see if I can find the questions. Do you know where it was, Bryon?
Yeah, on the app.
We do have one audience question if you want to do that as well.
Okay.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Mike Whipple from Flint Hills Resources in an oil refinery. I was wondering about the digital twin and how do you maintain the digital twin? That seems to be one of our struggles, is like what that looks like with changes and updating that to make sure that you're as relevant as possible with it.
Yeah, digital twins.
You want to tackle it, Bryon, or you want me?
Bobby, please.
Sure.
I know we talked about this in extensively because there's a term digital twin that gets very specifically talking about kind of what you're talking about, right? Digital twin is more or less pictures that are laid out in a certain way. And then there's other different ways to look at it. So Bobby, go ahead. Sorry.
Sure. Here's the thing. Obviously, when we build out these virtual environments, digital twin, whatever you want to call it, there's going to be updates. You have to have a management system, much like how your phone is, like how your apps have an update, and the update could include new features or could improve bugs that you might have that you might uncover. So when you're creating a digital twin that you are now launching to your work, through your ecosystem and through your work environment, you need to be able to partner with a company, right? They'd be able to provide those updates, a company being like a management system to then distribute those updates and those changes. I mean, that's just sort of the nature of how it's the same thing as like a laptop computer, and your head of IT says, hey, you need to make sure that you update your Windows machine or your MacBook. It's the same process that you're going to find with XR technology, whether it's through a VR, AR headset, and through the software that you're using. And it's just really just staying on top of your goals, making sure that your systems are in place so you can roll out those updates easily.
And another thing we learned was, that as a building evolves, which of course it would be really cool, like to go back in time for a lot of these facilities and grab a digital copy of the original building and then see the evolution year over year. And from an engineering perspective, you can also see degradation. You can see how it's affecting the building internal engineering as well over the years, where maybe we were lacking in maintenance. You can find some of those through digital twins and the evolution year over year of being able to look at, okay, seeing rust, for example, on surfaces, what's causing that, right? Was it there before? Was it there during original construction? You'll be able to use digital twins to do that. But to your point, you have to do that, you have to manage the program. Somebody's got to be responsible for collecting those digital twins, because every year you're going to have a new copy, right? New version. And to just keep all those available. And I just had the one question that I want to make sure I answer. How can I help my clients define use cases for VR training? So the way I look at VR training, the one thing we absolutely have to do is find the root cause. Why are you doing the training in the first place? And align that training to very specific goals for that training. So you start off by saying, okay, root cause, we're having issues with this component failing, right? Or this piece of equipment going down, right? And then when you develop the training, you need to find out what those root causes were, and then how are you eliminating them through training? So is it a human error related incident? And if so, how do you avoid that human error related incident? So essentially you have to it starts by tying it to the actual root cause, and then sharing that with the client, like how are you helping them be successful, right? At removing that operational risk for the client.
Yeah, I mean, and again, it might be times just looking at a gap, like what is a learning gap in your company, or an objective gap, and is technology the solution to that, or is XR technology? And it's not always the case. Sometimes you can't force it to work because now you're just causing more issues. So you need to sort of really think about, what is the end goal you're trying to do, and then is this the right approach? I believe you have a question, right?
You'd mentioned that you eliminated the login screen. So are you completely circumventing Facebook software on there? And if so, can you do that?
So there's no reason why we can't. Bobby?
Well, yeah, you can absolutely, yeah, you can, so you can, obviously, if you've heard of side loading, you can sideload applications, and then, of course, there is a menu within there. But it is possible to actually, go into an operating system, because basically the Quest is an Android operating system. I mean, it's what it boils down to. You're not completely eliminating, erasing, Meta's menu page, but you can absolutely manipulate it in a way that you are least likely having to go through like a typical login.
So you basically sideload your software on there, and then it boots to that?
Yes.
Okay. Cool.
And of course, we have a management system. So Bryon's team, they're able to deploy headsets, and monitor who's using it, how they're using it, and even see if employee 22 is doing the training, versus and who's like maybe cutting training short type of thing.
But we're purposely not collecting personalized data to avoid security risks. And that was the key, because a lot of our clients, that is a no. You're not collecting our personal data. You're not collecting any data for our employees. And I was like, okay, we're not. Fair enough. And that works, because as soon as you say that, we're not collecting any data, it's totally autonomous, right? You put on the headset, you can call yourself Johnny, right? Johnny No Name. It doesn't matter, right? So you go in and you're able to experience everything inside the platform, but in a way where you're no longer locked into they're collecting your data. They know who you are. They know, yes, we know where the headset is, but that's it, right? We don't. We're using the software, the remote managed software to manage the application. But other than that, right, in other words, once you connect to Wi-Fi, and we already have, like before that ever leaves the warehouse, right, we have it prepared when it gets to the user. All they do is log into Wi-Fi, and then it will re-update everything.
And they're ready to go.
To the new version, and they're ready to go, exactly. They don't have to do anything other than log in, yeah.
We have another question.
Hi, Grace Cow from Edwards Life Sciences. So med device company, like you have a lot of technical training, same here. So I'm just trying to see how you streamline with the LMS. Because at the end, you mentioned that this is good for certified staff, right? Mm-hmm. So how you can link or transform your data to this LMS system.
Right, and that is a key point, because if we want to be autonomous, how are we going to do a certification and qualification program? And that's done through essentially what you do is you log into the LMS separate and say you've completed it, and say which device did you complete it on, and that's it, right? You just say, okay, we see that you've completed it on this headset at this time. So that person can get the certification. But essentially, it's still autonomous, so they could be lying, right? And somebody else could have taken the training. But if somebody's going to do that, right, it would be proctored. Essentially, whoever's getting this headset knows it's either your headset, you're 100% responsible for it, or if it's going to a site and there's multiple people there must be a proctor if you want to get the qualifications and the certifications that go with it. Right? So that's the only way we can deal with it, because it still retains autonomy, but at the same time, it is a user-specific data that we're capturing. So we capture data. We can capture all sorts of data, right? We get lots of data coming in, but it's autonomous to the headset. We don't know who or what was going on at the time, right? But we, as an output, we get the data, right? And we're able to say, okay, you were using this headset at this location. Okay, we know who you are. We can verify that you are the one and you're certified, essentially.
Okay, so you're still using the digital twins, right? Do you know?
Yeah, there's digital twins, yeah, but that part gets locked down, especially for client sites, because clients are very sensitive about being able to see their building internals and being able to see all that. So what we do is we basically say, well, we work with Exod and FS Studio and say, hey, only this headset gets to see this digital twin, right? And so and we can do that pretty much however we want. We can say this experience only goes with this headset, and this experience goes with this headset. And essentially, if we manage it that way, we can avoid any sort of security risks.
And it really comes down to like a really great management system. And we work with one, and and again that idea, right, is if we know a headset 68 is in Texas, and but that the wrong training is on it, we can shut that down very easily.
And get a good partner, because I would say that I send an email and it's to Portugal, because the main company that we're using to manage that, Exod, is out of Portugal. But I email them, and like 10 minutes later, they're like, oh yeah, we see that. Okay, yeah, we got it. And it's like the update happens like 2 minutes later. And it's literally, with a good partner, it can be that quick, right? And make sure you got the right software on the right headset.
Oh, we have one more question.
Yeah, hi, Mike Casson, forklift simulator and playwork. What are some of the biggest challenges that you're currently encountering with widespread implementation?
Yeah.
Of the VR training? Yeah.
The same as everybody else is budget, right? So we'd love to, that this would grow really fast, and we were able to distribute all over the world and just have all of this built tomorrow. But the fact of the matter is, we are approaching a recession or in a recession, and that really has been our biggest challenge, right? Being able to get the executive engagement and getting that funding for all the magic that we know, right? So we did a proof of concept so that we could hopefully engage and help to push the funding for the future, which I think, anybody, if you're getting ready to push and create your own platforms, you get that pilot done, get that proof of concept so you can show it does work for our industry. It does prove, it is proved it does work. And then from there, it's much easier to get the funding after that. Right? So I think the biggest challenge right now is the funding, but I think the vision is clear. I mean, after having enough people see that headset and put it on and do the training and do the individual experiences, right? Every single person that put that headset on came away saying, we need more of that. We need more of that right now. And of course, I'm like, well, I'd love to, but it's going to cost X. And of course, you bring that to executive management, and they're like, well, we can give you this, right? And I'm like, well, we'll take what we can get. And it's about right-sizing it, right? And I think if the biggest message at the conference is, if we all move forward at the right pace, I think this technology will definitely continue to grow and evolve. I do fear that if we go too fast, right, we try to accelerate too quickly, that we're going to hit a wall, and that wall is going to knock us back. And I don't want that to happen. We don't want to be Betamax.
No, we don't. We don't want to be yeah, that's right. And here's the other thing, to kind of really, if you are, coming away from this conversation and this conference, and you're going back to your employers or decision makers or stakeholders, come armed with case studies. Case studies are probably one of the biggest tools you can have to say, hey, we should be bringing XR into our environment. And Bryan's right, you can't go too fast. You have to go at a pace that really helps amplify that organic growth within your organization. Again, looking at how other companies are using it, not only looking at how your competitors are using it, but look at how just other industries, maybe nothing to do with your industry, how are they using it? Look at the case study. Look at the case study of, if it's forklift training, if it's, Black Friday sales, look at the case study of how it's impacting in airport sims, and take that with you to your stakeholders and to your directors and decision makers and say, this is how we do this. Look at this information. Here are some case studies. Again, don't jump too far ahead. Tiny bites is the best way to do this.
Awesome. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much for coming. We made it through the day. That was great. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for coming. Thanks for participating. Thanks for asking questions. And thank you so much that you're pushing XR forward. We appreciate that. So have a good night, and we'll see you all tomorrow.
Good day.
Let's also give today's host, Brad, a round of applause for making this fun and enjoyable. Thanks, Brad.
Oh, thank you.